We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing all right, Jared. Doing all right. How are you doing today?
It's hate week still. I mean, it was hate week an hour ago when we recorded the Monday episode, and it's hate week now an hour later. It's hate week. It's still hate week.
I'm ready to talk about some
The casuals call it
here.
Thanksgiving.
I'm ready to talk some collegiate chaos here. We got to have some chaos this last weekend, right? I mean, you got a lot of the SEC schools are playing their cupcake games this week, last weekend here. I mean, there's sure there's got to be some upsets this weekend, right?
James Madison lost.
They did lose. Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't technically count because the NCAA sucks. And wasn't going to let them play in a bowl game anyway. But then Appy State ended that controversy in, was it double overtime, single overtime? I forget. But yeah, JMU lost, so there's a little tiny bit of chaos for you.
I think the only chaos when I'm looking, there's only one game you would consider chaos here, and that's Clemson defeating UNC. No. UNC was ranked. Clemson, who wasn't, 31-20. Clemson actually starting to play some decent football here, but so not to up to par of what they were expecting this year.
No, it's been a rough year for Clemson for sure. And it's been a rough year for USC as well. Certainly not chaos at this point in the year, but USC is still falling off pretty hard. They lost to UCLA badly. It's been a rough go of things for a couple blue bloods or red bloods, as we like to say on this podcast.
Yeah. Moving through these other games here. Notre Dame takes care of business over Wake Forest. Georgia just showing everybody why Tennessee never should have been ranked. It absolutely destroys them. In good old Iowa fashion, 15-13 victory over Illinois marks their spot into the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah. Back to Georgia Clemson. As Austin, who's joined us in the chat, points out, what's the likelihood that Tennessee is still somehow ranked after getting demolished by Georgia? Tennessee, find someone who loves you the way the College Football Playoff Committee loves Tennessee. That's all I'm saying.
Just to understand it. Like, they'll be ranked right at 25. They'll be ranked right at 25.
I won't say it's 100% chance, Austin, but it's a 60% chance, which is about 60 more percent than it deserves. I bet my life savings on it. Well, you're a public school teacher, so
who the hell did they beat to deserve to be up there?
They've had some really good losses, Kyle. They've had some really good losses, and that's what it takes in the SEC. The chat's mad at me now. Hey, man, don't be mad at me. Be mad at the government that doesn't pay him. I'm not the bad guy here. I'm just pointing out the truth.
Iowa, 15-13 over Illinois here, Jared. I saw this stat here. Hopefully it's true. 10 touchdowns in their 8 Big Ten games this season. 10 touchdowns in 8 Big Ten games.
That's crazy. We were talking about Ohio State getting very close to getting some shutouts on the Monday episode, but not quite getting the shutouts. Well, if Ohio State can beat Michigan, and I don't think they're not going to shut out Michigan, but if Ohio State can beat Michigan, maybe you get that shutout in the Big Ten championship game. It wouldn't be the first time.
They win the Big Ten West, and they also have the least amount of points scored in the Big Ten West.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The Big Ten West is such garbage. The Big Ten West is such garbage. I am so happy the divisions are over starting next year. I am so happy.
118 points this season.
Austin, that was our last Big Ten shutout. But not our last shutout.
Yep, Big Ten. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Oklahoma State 43-30 victory over Houston. I did not watch that game, so this is the first time I'm seeing that score there. Did you see any of that, Jared?
I did not. I stopped caring about the Cowboys after they got... I stopped caring about the Cowboys. I mean, I knew that they lost. I saw the final, but did I see any of the football game? No, I did not. Or excuse me, I know that they won. I don't know why I said loss. But yeah.
Oregon takes care of business over Arizona State 49-13.
Oregon,
Florida
Kyle,
State.
I'm telling you right now, I don't think there's a scarier team in the country than Oregon.
No one wants to play Oregon right now. No, absolutely not.
That being said, look out for Oregon State next week. It's a rivalry game. Look out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Bo Nix got it together in year 10. Yeah, he's on that JT Barrett plan.
Florida State beats Northern Alabama handily. They got off to a scare. North Alabama 13-0 at the end of the first quarter, but the big story is their quarterback Jordan Travis being out.
Out is the nicest possible way you could say that.
Yes.
He's I know nothing, obviously. I'm not an Ohio State insider, let alone a Florida State insider, but I don't know if we ever see him play football again. I think it's potentially that bad. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Jordan Travis comes back and plays football somewhere, somehow. But that was bad. And I hope he's okay. But I'm not going to put money on that. It was bad. And both the I still want to call it the WB, the CW and ESPN kept showing the goddamn replay for some reason. I wouldn't even share that replay in the Discord server. I thought about it and I said, no, I better not do that. I'd feel bad about doing that. And they just kept showing it over and over again. And by the way, North Alabama, just so we're clear, is not South Alabama. South Alabama is a decent team is a group of 5 team that recently became a FBS team that recently became an FBS team. Considering all that, they're not bad. This is North Alabama, who is a less than 500 team in the FCS. So to go down 13-0, I don't care if it ends up being 58-13. To go down 13-0 to Northern Alabama is a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
Is North Alabama actually in the north of Alabama, unlike USF? It's a great question. I have no idea.
I'm not going to look it up.
No.
Please don't. We're going to move on to Tulane. Tulane wins 24-8 over FAU. Don't care. Briefly talked a little bit about Michigan in yesterday's episode here. Most points they've led up all season here.
Huh.
Barely come up with a win here against Maryland on the road, 31-24.
Well, let's just go through the timeline of events here.
Mhm.
Michigan gets caught cheating. Then they give up the most points they did all year to Purdue. Then they gave up the most points they did all year to Penn State. Then they gave up the most points they did all year to Maryland.
They keep increasing that. They keep increasing it. 13, Purdue, 15, Penn State, 24, Maryland, 100, Ohio State. I mean, it just keeps going up.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? Can you please imagine? We need to go back. Can we go back to the old clock rules for this game? I want the old clock rules for this game. Michigan bleeds, and they don't bleed blue. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Just tune in for Know Your Enemy, which will, despite, don't let the holiday fool you. We will be releasing Know Your Enemy this Thursday. I might get crazy and release it on a Wednesday night. Who knows?
Nope.
But expect it on Thursday.
Louisville beats Miami 38-31. I think a lot of people had this as an upset alert here. I think this was yours, Jared.
It was.
All right.
I think Miami could have won this game. They just didn't. Sometimes the clock just ends, and that's
Jared.
I'm saying sometimes the clock just ends. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, it's a game that could have just gone in either direction. And eventually the game just has to end. And that was one of these games.
Mm-hmm. Penn State beats Rutgers 27-6.
Don't let that fool you. It was a very close game.
It was 10-6 at halftime, 13-6 at the end of the third quarter, and just two touchdowns in the fourth quarter there. Drew Aller, did you see this? Drew Aller, 6 for 13 for 79 yards.
Wow. That's a JJ McCarthy type game right there.
That is. He's been, for lack of a better term, sucking it up the second half of this year.
They fired Stitch for a reason.
Yeah.
Future top 15 pick, JJ McCarthy. Challenge. The number of pass attempts for JJ McCarthy against Ohio State versus the draft position he gets drafted in. Which one's higher? We let Stitch walk for a reason.
Yep.
I mean, he got a promotion though, right? Didn't he go from a quarterback coach to an OC on his move? Like, yeah, I mean, it's not let him walk he got a promotion. That's just, you know what I mean?
Let's see. And here, 3 SEC schools defeat their bye weeks here: Alabama, Ole Miss, and LSU.
Well, now hold on there. Don't be fast forwarding too hard there. Ole Miss struggled hard in the first half against Louisiana Monroe. They piled it on in the third quarter, but my goodness. Well, I had my eye on that game for a minute.
7-3 at the end of the first half.
Austin tells us not to forget Auburn. We might have forgotten Auburn since they're not in the top 25, but we should not forget Auburn, Kyle.
Yeah. Where was that final score? Because it was bad.
It was real bad. Yeah, Cupcake Weekend in the SEC.
31-10. It wasn't a one-score game. It was 31-10.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they scored a touchdown at the end to make the score look bigger, but
I don't care.
31-10.
You gonna tell the people who they played?
New Mexico State.
Auburn lost to New Mexico State. The Aggies? Is that correct? Didn't we play the Aggies a few years back?
That is the Aggies.
Yeah. Austin points out New Mexico State got paid $1.85 million to travel to Alabama to whoop Auburn's ass. That's what you get for Auburn for playing an FBS team the week before the Iron Bowl. You should have played Tennessee Chattanooga.
That's the second time Auburn lost big to an Aggies. 31-10 here and 27-10 earlier in the season.
Well done, Kyle. Well done.
Thank you. Oklahoma squeaks out a win against BYU, 31-24.
Yeah.
I was seeing if you had anything to say with that.
I mean, Oklahoma looks like garbage, quite frankly. BYU got like their ass kicked by a bunch of Big 12 teams this year. So to see this game be in doubt as late as this game was in doubt is really not a great sign if you're looking for Oklahoma Oklahoma seems like the most likely candidate to knock off Texas to maybe free up a college football playoff spot.
Only 2 wins in the conference for BYU.
Who were they against?
Not that good. It was tied. It was tied going into the fourth quarter, 24-all.
Yeah, Kyle.
Who did they beat?
I want to know if it's a legacy Big 12 member or if it's one of the new Big 12 teams.
Cincinnati.
Uh-huh.
And Texas Tech, who's in the middle of the road there.
Oh, okay. So they did beat a legacy Big 12 team. I haven't seen the statistic in a minute, but it was very late in the season until a new Big 12 team beat a legacy Big 12 team. Like it was very late in the season before that happened.
BYU did beat Arkansas earlier in the year.
And?
I just wanted to point that out.
Arkansas is garbage.
The team who's not garbage that we've been saying for like a month and a half now. Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona whoops on Utah 42-18. We've been saying it.
Arkansas's best win is Florida. Kyle and I were very, very early on that Arizona train. We were early on that bandwagon.
Yeah. Ever since Arizona's quarterback.
Austin adopted TCU last year early, and he never shut up about it. This is Arizona's that for us this year, Kyle.
Yeah. Ever since Arizona's quarterback injury, and in comes freshman quarterback Noah, coming into this season here, he's looked good. He's looked really good. What did he do in this game here? 22 for 30, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns in the game. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he's been fantastic, and I was never even aware of this guy until he started playing for Arizona. Fantastic freshman campaign for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Dare to say he if there is a award, maybe there is one. I don't know. Freshman of the year, maybe him.
I would say maybe him. Absolutely. I challenge anyone to name a better freshman of the year candidate.
Kansas State defeats Kansas 31-27. I saw a little bit of that. There was a lot of back and forth with that game going on. Another entertaining Big 12 matchup there. Missouri squeaks out a win over Florida 33-31.
Missouri is a team that is like almost very good, but not like, I don't know. Florida's not a good football team. I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of Mizzou. Sometimes they just look like I don't know. It was 4th and 17. Yes, it was, Austin. Florida could have won that game if they stopped Mizzou on a 4th and 17 and they didn't stop Mizzou on the
didn't.
4th and 17. Mizzou has a very fun offense. I will say that unequivocally about Missouri. They have an incredibly fun offense.
Yeah. Washington, 2-point victory over Oregon State.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a night game. Yes, on the road over at Oregon State. Yes, it was very cold. Yes, it was very rainy. But Oregon State shut out Washington in the second half. Washington scored 0 points. Got all 22 points in the first half there. Yeah.
Yeah, Oregon State's a very good football team. They could have beat Washington here. They can beat Oregon next week. Just couldn't move the ball enough. No, they couldn't. I don't know, man. Like Washington, I ask myself this question frequently. How the hell did Washington beat Oregon? Like it's a question I ask myself a couple times a week. Oregon just looks so much better. And I don't think it's locked in yet, Kyle. I think Oregon State can still, I think if Oregon State beats Oregon, they go to the Pac-12 championship game. Is that correct? No?
Nope. Let me look here.
They have to. No, they don't.
No, it's set here. It's Washington and Oregon.
Okay. So, I mean, Oregon will get a shot at Washington. A reshot, a redo against Washington.
Oh, is it? Hold on. Let's see. Washington.
Austin
Washington's
says no
in.
Arizona. He says Arizona still has a shot.
I'm curious. So
throw the standings into the chat, Kyle.
Whoa, that's right. Arizona did not play Oregon. For some reason, I thought they did. Ooh, there's that tie there. I don't know what the tiebreaker is.
Probably. Maybe is it just the college football playoff rankings? Is that the tiebreaker if there's not a head-to-head? It's simple, Austin says. Arizona has the tiebreaker.
I'm curious on how that's determined, but sure. Okay.
They need to win and Oregon needs to lose. I mean, that's a given. But Oregon has the better overall. What is the second tiebreaker in the Pac-12? I don't know the answer to that question. Is it overall record? Is it college football playoff ranking? I don't know the answer to that. I think we're doing a Kyle look it up Kyle situation. I don't know if he's going to find that quickly or not. But if Arizona wins and Oregon loses, they'll both be 7-2 in the conference. Kyle, interrupt me if you find it. I'm just vamping for you.
If Oregon loses to Oregon State, then Arizona go on account of their win versus Oregon State. So it's because Arizona beat Oregon State and Oregon losing to Oregon State. I guess that's
really. They should have a lot of common opponents, though. That's why you just go conference record. That's why the conference record exists. It's win percentage against the next highest ranked common opponent. That is incredible. That is so Pac-12. That is the most convoluted tiebreaker I've ever heard in my life. Win percentage against the next highest ranked common opponent. That is so convoluted. Win percentage against the next highest placed common opponent in the standings based on the record in all games played within the conference proceeding through the standings. Why, as Spikes says, why does it need to be that complicated? Conference record, head to head, those should be your first two. The next one either should just be the college football playoff ranking or the overall ranking. What is this convoluted ass number 3? Why the Pac-12 deserves its fate. The Pac-12 deserves its fate. But listen, we're Big Ten fans, and it used to be the tiebreaker for the Big Ten to see who got to go to the Rose Bowl was whoever hasn't gone the longest.
Yeah.
Which is the worst tiebreaker that has ever existed.
In the last,
you're welcome,
last
Northwestern.
The last game here we had, Jared, was
I'm not
Texas.
Still bitter about it.
Texas outlasting Iowa State 26-16.
Yeah, Iowa State could have won this game. They could have very easily won this game. Would have been huge for everyone rooting for chaos, but didn't quite play out that way. I'm not still mad about Northwestern going to the Rose Bowl. Was it, Spikes, was that 96? 95? Maybe? Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not still mad about it. I promise. Nearly 30 years after the fact. I think it was 96. It was something in that area. My God. Yeah. Okay, Kyle. Those are all the games I think that we need to talk about. Let's get to the tier list. All right, Kyle. Last we left this tier list, we had Georgia number 1. We had Ohio State number 2. We had Washington number 3. We had Michigan number 4. Do you have any adjustments you would like to make in this in our S tier?
Nope.
I think the top 4 keep them the same. Solid.
You keep them the same there. Washington does add on that nice resume builder with Oregon State. So they got 2 very, very very good wins in their resume there.
Yeah.
I'm curious on where where everybody's going to be ranked, because I know that where will Notre Dame be? Like, looking at Ohio State's victories, Penn State, Notre Dame, I think 2 top 20 victories here, and then Washington may have a better resume than Ohio State, but I think Ohio State, from an eye standpoint, has looked better.
Austin, you think that the College Football Playoff Committee is going to jump Ohio State ahead of Georgia?
No
I don't.
way.
After Georgia just dismantled the darlings of the College Football Playoff Committee, Tennessee.
Yeah, no.
Georgia's easily number 1 still. Yes. Unless you're talking about not when Ohio State beats Michigan. Oh, not the next one, but the next one.
Yes.
Gotcha. I'm on board now. Yeah, I think the winner of Ohio State, Michigan, especially if it's Ohio State. You meant our next rankings. Got it. Right. Yeah. Especially if it's Ohio State, because of their superior resume. I think Ohio State has a decent chance of hopping back into number 1 should they beat Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan won't jump Georgia. I tend to agree. All
right. So A tier, Florida State stays where they're at. The next 4 there, I think, stays where they're at. And that's all of the 1-loss teams that we care to talk about.
Okay.
In A tier. Penn State. You can almost move Missouri right there next to Penn State as well, maybe.
Yeah. Oregon State. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, Kyle. I almost want to move Penn State down. They don't necessarily deserve it, but the picture has become so much more clear that I kind of just don't even think they belong up there at this point.
That's fine. Yep. They can go down to B tier. I'm fine with that.
Okay, they're going onto the end of B tier, but just for everyone watching, in case you're new here, only the S tier is ranked as far as the order. None of the other tiers, we don't care about the order of any of them. So,
let's see. Oregon State, even though they lost their third, I still think they're a really good B tier team. I think they can stay B tier. Missouri can stay. Oklahoma can stay. JMU goes down to C tier. Liberty still undefeated. They get to stay where they're at. Tulane is having a stellar year with one loss. I guess they can stay in B tier. Iowa.
Well, they're still, as far as I know, they're gonna go to a power, or they're gonna go to one of the New Year's Day bowls as the top ranked group of 5, as long as they keep going. So they belong in B tier.
As long as they beat University of Texas San Antonio next weekend, the Roadrunners.
Yeah, I was about to say Roadrunners. I haven't been super following the happenings in the group of 5 this year, but the Roadrunners are typically pretty good. There are only 8 teams that can make the playoffs. Austin says Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Texas, Bama, Oregon. So I hear what you're saying, Austin, but I don't want to move Louisville out of the A tier. If that's the implication, I don't want to move Louisville. I don't know what type of chaos it would take to get Louisville into the playoffs, but it would be a lot. I don't know if it's too much. Maybe. But I don't want to move. I don't want to move a top 10 one-loss team out of A tier.
Louisville needs style points, and they didn't get it this weekend against Miami, but they need style points against Kentucky this weekend in a convincing win over Florida State.
Florida State
ACC
without
championship game.
Without Jordan Travis. And I don't even know if Florida State beats Florida without Jordan Travis.
Yeah, it's a game of backup quarterbacks in that game.
Yeah, but one of them's a much worse drop-off than the other, with all due respect to Graham Mertz.
Okay, so A tier, good. So B tier, just let me go back here. B tier, I don't know if there's anybody really worth putting up there. Arizona in B tier.
I agree. I think we actually said last week that if they beat Utah, we'd move them up.
Yep. Yeah.
I totally agree.
I think that's fine.
And by the way, they literally are in the hunt for the Pac-12 championship game, which I think is like a part of our criteria for being it's not the entire criteria, but it is part of the criteria for being in B tier.
It is. Yep. I think that's it here.
I think there actually is it. Like I kind of hate that it was that easy, but I think it's that easy. Do we have any new S tier, or excuse me, M tier candidates? Hear me out. Auburn to M tier. I'm not against it.
Was there even expectations?
That's the thing
for Auburn.
Like, it really is about a team that failed expectations, and I get that losing, they were favored by 25.
I understand, but what were they expected to do at the beginning of the season?
It's about 25. I know, but like we could put Oklahoma State not lose to an FCS school. God, the chat's making good points. They paid. I mean, Auburn didn't lose to an FCS school, though, did they? Or did that happen earlier in the season? Am I forgetting something?
No.
Okay. I don't know. Like no, but it would have been better to lose to some FCS schools. You're not wrong. Yeah, to me, the M tier is about having big expectations coming into the season and falling flat on your face. Colorado had so much hype in September. People were calling literally like anytime, even to the end of November, anytime someone farts in Colorado, I get a Bleacher Report alert about it. Clemson is Clemson. They're a team that is expected to win the conference or at least play for the conference championship game, and then they fell flat on their face hard. USC is USC. Jared, they lost by 21 as a 25-point favorite to a non-Power 5 team at home, paid them $1.85 million to do it. If that isn't M tier, then what the fuck are we doing? It's an embarrassing weekend. Austin, let me put it to you like this. What you're describing is a monumentally embarrassing weekend. M tier is for teams that are having a monumentally embarrassing season. Does that make sense? It's about having a failure of a season when you are expected to be great. It's just Michigan, about having a bad
Michigan
weekend.
And App State level. It's Michigan App State level when you get a highly ranked team losing to a team
by the way, no, Kyle, I disagree. It's not that. It's not Michigan losing to App State. It is, however, Michigan losing to App State and then losing to Toledo the next week. It is that. That's my point. M tier is about totally falling on your face for the season, not just one bad weekend.
Wait,
what?
Is that the same year?
Yes, Kyle. They lost. God, your memory's going in your old age, isn't it? Kyle, it was the next week.
No, it wasn't. No.
Was there a game in between?
No, it wasn't. They lost to Oregon the following week.
And then they lost to Toledo, right? Or am I totally making that up?
You are totally making that up.
Okay, whatever. Oregon wasn't Oregon.
They lost to Toledo the following year.
Fine. But Oregon wasn't Oregon yet at that point. That was 2007. It's not like Oregon is the Oregon we know them to be now.
They had Dixon. They had Dixon at quarterback there, and yeah, they demolished Michigan in that game.
My point,
but I digress.
As far as Auburn is concerned, is that they had no expectations for being anything other than the shitty team in Alabama. That's it. It is about having big expectations and failing them, and not just for a game, but for a season. M tier is a special level of failure. And Auburn came into the season as a failure, and they're leaving the season as a failure. Therefore, they don't qualify as M tier. Kyle, you got any playoff scenarios you want to run through?
Pull this up real quick here. Playoff scenarios. SEC champion in. Georgia or Alabama are in.
I agree.
I just don't see Alabama losing to Auburn, especially after seeing what Auburn did this weekend. And I don't see Georgia losing to Georgia Tech this weekend either.
I would say the likelihood of either of those things happening is like 5%. And that's being insanely generous.
Winner of next weekend should and will beat Iowa. So the winner of this weekend's game goes on.
Call me crazy. Should it be Michigan? I think Iowa's a good matchup for Michigan. I will stand by that assessment. Ohio State will kill Iowa. They'll just out-athlete them. But if we're talking about the type of football that Michigan's been playing this season, Iowa doesn't have an offense, Jared. We know this. But Iowa's defense is built in the exact way that would really screw with Michigan's offense.
But Iowa lost to Penn State 31-0.
And somehow Drew Aller is a better quarterback than J.J. McCarthy. And yes, I will stand by that. I will stand by that.
All right.
I'm not saying it's likely. Don't get me wrong. I am saying that Iowa is a much better matchup against Michigan than they are against Ohio State. I'm just tossing that out there.
God, I'm like, so much happened this weekend here. I mean, obviously Florida State losing their quarterback. Washington looking very vulnerable here. I mean, they play Washington State this weekend. That may not be as easy of a game for Washington. Or Oregon plays Oregon State. That might be a dog battle as well, too.
Okay.
This is tough.
Austin says a 12-1 Georgia as a non-champion, a 12-1 Bama as a champion, 12-1 FSU as a non-champ, Louisville 12-1 as a champ, Texas 12-1 as a champ, 13-0 Michigan as a champ.
Oh, this is easy. This is easy.
11-1 Ohio State non-champ, 12-1 Oregon as a champ, Washington 12-1 not a champ. So Washington's out.
This is easy.
FSU's out.
So your undefeated team is in. That would be Michigan in this scenario here. Next would be Oregon. Oregon would be in. Third would be Texas. Texas would be in. Okay, in Alabama. In Alabama would be in then. Those four.
You already said Alabama.
Michigan, Oregon, Texas, Alabama. That would be your four.
I don't disagree, although I don't necessarily,
because you can't in this scenario here. How can you put in a 12-1 Georgia or an 11-1 Ohio State as a non-conference champion over teams with one loss as well who are a conference champion? Like that'd be so. If that happens, like.
I noticed you skipped over Louisville.
The 12 team playoff.
I noticed that you skipped over Louisville as the ACC champ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. And it's based on.
Based on.
Yes. Louisville would beat. I'm getting there. Louisville would beat Florida State great. That's a
Yeah.
great win. Michigan would beat Ohio State, which would be one of the best wins.
Sure.
Alabama would beat
Georgia,
one of the best wins.
Sure.
Oregon would beat Washington, one of the best wins here. But I think as a resume as a whole here, I think that they would, all of them, including Texas as well, who beat Alabama as well, would get in over Louisville. I think just the resume would have Louisville be left out.
Austin says, okay, what if Texas loses to Oklahoma? Who goes in?
God, it is
instead of Texas.
My mind reaches out to Louisville. Well, don't even just say Louisville or Ohio State. I mean, you got to throw Georgia in the hat, in the ring as well too.
Here's the thing. It probably should be Louisville.
It should be. It really should be.
But would it be? So
what is Louisville's...
In college football, laundry matters. Sorry. Perception matters, laundry matters.
But here's the thing though. Here's the thing, like Louisville's in this scenario, Louisville's resume, I think, would be slightly higher than Ohio State's in terms of teams that they've beaten.
Please make that case for me.
They beat Notre Dame. Ohio State beat Notre Dame.
Sure.
And so the next best games here would be Ohio State beats Penn State, Louisville beats Florida State, who's currently number 4.
Florida State without Jordan Travis.
That is true still. But man, that's
and like don't leave Georgia out of that convo.
Yeah.
I think it would be Georgia.
Georgia currently they would have 3, because Tennessee is still going to be ranked somehow. They would have 3 top 25 victories.
Kyle, who's Louisville's loss?
Yeah, that's a bad loss in Pitt.
Kyle, of all of the teams, if we look at 9 teams in this scenario that Austin laid out for us, Georgia's loss is to Bama, Bama's loss is to Texas, Florida State's loss is to Louisville, Texas's loss is to Oklahoma, Michigan doesn't have a loss, Ohio State's loss is to Michigan, Oregon's loss is to Washington, Washington's loss is to Oregon. Every single one of those teams has a high quality loss. Except Louisville.
But we've seen
the albatross.
But we've seen in different years that,
let's not forget the Virginia Tech albatross.
One of the committee's big points is having a conference champion.
They've also called that a tiebreaker. Let's not forget Penn State winning the Big Ten championship game and Ohio State going to the playoffs instead. Not when your conference is the ACC. Also a valid point. Worth noting, Kyle, that the Big Ten sent 2 teams last year, and therefore conference champions were left on the table. The SEC has sent multiple teams before, leaving conference champions on the table. I don't know that the conference championship is as powerful as you are currently making it to be.
The big difference though last year, the big difference with this one here, Jared, in this scenario is that you would have so many teams with 1 losses. Last year you had so many teams who had 2 and 3 losses that were just on the outside. I think they had it right last year. Georgia was undefeated. TCU, Michigan, and Ohio State all with 1 losses. Yeah, they had that right in that scenario here. With this one here, you have pretty much the same record, the same amount of losses here. It's hard. It'd be hard for me to sit here and say, nope, Ohio State should get in over Louisville because
I'm not saying that. I'm saying Georgia would get in over both of them in that scenario. Georgia has a bunch of quality wins, and in most of those quality wins, with the exception of, I think they played Missouri close, but in all those top 25 wins that they have, they slaughtered their opponents.
And they almost lost to Auburn.
Weirdly. But, Ohio State has played some bad teams close this year too.
Yeah. All right. Last scenario. We have to end it here.
Gangland asks a question. Over under 0.5. T. Kun coaches relieved of duty this week.
I would love to say over, but I think it's under. I would love to say over.
I'm just going to say there was a certain Michigan assistant last week who deleted their Twitter account a couple weeks before National Signing Day. And I don't know what that means other than it happened. It wasn't Jay Harbaugh. It was, I can't think of his name. Yeah. I think they call him Clink, but that's not his name. Is it Clink? It's something like that. Austin. Yes. I can't think of his name though. No, not that, Connor. I think Jay is the one to go. Maybe.
All right. In this scenario, so one last scenario here. Ohio State, Florida State, undefeated, conference champions. No question they're in. I'm just going to mark those 2 in.
1 and 2 in that order. Ohio State, Florida State.
Yep.
Well, maybe
Alabama is a conference champion. Texas conference champion, and Oregon is a conference champion. The others don't care about, honestly. You would put Alabama in because I think
Ohio State won recently,
the way they've been playing recently, and then a victory over then the number 1 team there, or number 2, maybe we'll see. Georgia, yeah, that's going to put Alabama in, no questions in my mind. Then the question's going to be, could you put Texas in? Could you put Texas in over Alabama, even though Texas beat Alabama, or Oregon, who's arguably looking like the best team in college football? Oh boy.
Especially when you consider Texas beat Bama.
I would say
this is the nightmare scenario for the conference, for the playoff committee.
You know what I would say? You know what? Yeah, I'm just trying to run through different scenarios here. I think if I'm going to go off of resume here, you got to put in Oregon. You got to put it in Oregon over Texas here. As much as it's like, well, Texas beat Alabama. How is Alabama in there? That's going to be the worst scenario for this committee here.
Austin says it's more of a nightmare if Washington beats Oregon. No, it's not. It takes Oregon's off the table, and Washington's automatically in that scenario.
Yeah, Washington's in. An undefeated conference champ is in, no questions.
Yeah, I disagree, Austin. Because then it's FSU, OSU, Washington, and one spot left for Texas or Alabama. That is the one scenario in which the SEC gets left out of the playoffs altogether, which I can't believe I'm even acknowledging that as a possibility. But my God, I think that's how do you choose? I still think they pick Bama, even with the tiebreaker.
I still think they do too, because if you look at Texas's victories,
scroll up a little bit, Florida. Austin laid it out.
They would have one victory over a top 10 in Alabama, and then one victory over a top 25 in, I think it's Kansas State. And then you look at Alabama's schedule. Alabama has their wins. Yes, they have the one loss to Texas, but they have wins over Ole Miss. They have wins over LSU, Tennessee, and then Georgia. That is a very impressive schedule. That'd be a very impressive if Alabama pulls that off. Yes, and Texas would flip the fuck out. Yes, they would.
I mean, yeah, because Ohio State's automatically in, Florida State's automatically in. I'm not leaving Oregon out. Sorry, I honestly think Oregon might be the best team performing wise. They might be the best performing team in college football right now.
And they'd have some of the best wins too. Like if you're going to go off of resume, yeah. I'd put Oregon in and then Alabama.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's Alabama, but my God, Texas fans would be so pissed off, and I don't blame them.
Yeah. All right. We do have to end it right here, though, Jared. We are coming up on the hour mark here on a Collegiate Chaos episode.
Yeah. You're high, Florida. If you think a 13-0 ACC champion's not making the playoffs with the branding and laundry that Florida State has, you're high. I don't know what else to tell you. All right, that's the end of the episode. Kyle, can we skip over plugs in Kyle's corner since we're running long?
Yep, let's just go ahead and end it here.
All right. Tonight's ending music is Playing to Vapors, one of my favorite bands of all time. They are, of course, from the Columbus area. So let me, just ending the episode. Playing to Vapors, name of the song is Fire Up Ahead. Playing to Vapors, Fire Up Ahead, name of the song. So with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support local podcasters. Once again, Playing to Vapors.